Tonight's forecast, a freeze is coming. Hello everyone and welcome to Film Shrapnel. Today we are finishing our Arnie season with Batman and Robin. Nice to see you. My name's Tobias. This is my co-anchor and partner in crime, Craig Britton. Hello, Craig.
Hello, how's it going, man?
I'm all right. I won't lie. I was not looking forward to doing this one.
I kind of was, actually, because I remember it's been super shit. But it's also a very, very fun movie at the same time.
It is. And it's got really nice visuals as well. I quite like this sort of neon vibe of Gotham. Kind of like it.
It's a weird mix. It's like something between... It's like they were trying to capture like the 60s feel from the show. I didn't really think of that at the time when I was a kid. But now I really see it. And also... like kind of like combining it with like Metropolis or something. It's interesting.
The thing is, like, Joel Schumacher has gone on record to say that his intention was, and with the last one, Batman Forever, his intention was to bring it back to a similar tone from the 60s TV show. But obviously people were more interested in the tone that Tim Burton had established and these are meant to be sequels. This is meant to be a sequel to the Tim Burton franchise. And it doesn't feel like the same franchise of movies. They do feel very different.
So different. By the way, just so you know, you're wrong. This is the last one. Batman Forever was before this one. I also made the same mistake.
No, I know Batman Forever's before this.
Yeah, but you said it... Didn't you say it the other way around? No?
No, Batman Forever... like he said for this one and Batman Forever that he was trying to go more in line. But to be fair, this one way more suffers for that directorial choice than the previous one. At least the previous one did have more of a Tim Burton-y vibe. But like there is a scene where... I mean, I think just introducing Robin generally is going to make it feel a bit cheesy. Because Robin has always been seen as a cheesy character somewhat, I would say at least.
I'll also say that he's so fucking annoying in this movie.
Yes, Chris O'Donnell.
He's the most annoying thing.
Chris O'Donnell, the only other thing besides these Batman movies that I know him from is Scent of a Woman with Pacino. And I really like him in that. I actually really like him in that film. Playing Charles. Not Chucky, not Chuck, Charles. So I quite like Chris O'Donnell, but I don't love him as Robin. But this cast is really stacked. Really stacked. So you've got George fucking Clooney as Batman. Michael Gough returning for 4 films in a row as Alfred.
He's the only consistent thing about these movies.
Yeah. He's the only thing that's in all of them. And really the only thing that keeps them connected, because let's be honest, once you get to this film, it really doesn't feel anything like the first Batman movie with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. They're very, very different tones. And it's only like an 8-year difference between the movies as well. Like, it's not a huge length of time for the franchise to devolve or evolve, however you want to look at it, so rapidly and vastly. But despite the fact that the film suffers for these choices, once you sort of get on board with that, it's quite fun.
Yeah. Once you know, like I imagine watching it, if you had like when it came out years ago, like I think it was 1997. If you had the expectations of the first Batman film, you watch this one, you're like, what the fuck happened? This is really trash. But watching it now, like what, I can't do numbers, 27 years later, I think. And you already know what it's going to be like. I don't know. I don't think it's so bad. It's kind of fun. You expect it. But I will say that the amount of one-liners in this movie is just... It's way too much. It's ridiculous. It's like every fucking line is a one-liner. It's insane.
Whole script. Yeah, the whole script. There is a quip in every line of dialogue. It's kind of embarrassing. Like, because I was having a look at some trivia, and I was watching Arnie in an interview back in the 90s talking about playing Mr. Freeze, and he's like, "Oh yes, this is one of the greatest scripts I've ever worked on. The writing is so clever." And then you watch the film and you're like, "You're just lying to people. You're just lying. The script is terrible." All of the ice puns. I mean, I think if you'd strip back the ice puns by about 50%, it'd still probably be too much, but it wouldn't be so egregious. There are a couple of other quippy moments that it's like, this really shouldn't have made it into the final cut of the film. For example, and I think this has become a bit of a meme at this point, so I think everyone knows about it, the Bat credit card.
I was going to say that.
Yeah. And did you notice that the expiry date on it says forever, which is probably also a reference to the previous film, but... Yeah.
Why did they do that?
And then George Clooney goes, "Never leave the cave without it." And it's like...
Yeah, it's like a fucking credit card advert. It's just...
It is.
Fuck's
sake. But there was a real credit card advert where I think it's for MasterCard, and they went, "Never leave home without it." So they were literally referencing the MasterCard advert.
It's just like product placement.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's really annoying. Yeah, there's a lot of shit. Like, I mean, even if you take all the Freeze one-liners, so many other characters have so many one-liners as well. Robin does, Poison Ivy, fucking George Clooney as Batman. It's just that's all they fucking use. They don't have regular dialogue.
The only person that has regular dialogue is Alfred. Alfred has
he's the only
normal lines.
Yeah, and he's the only one acting like a normal person.
There's one like henchman from Mr. Freeze who's this woman, like in like for whatever reason, a plastic raincoat in a fridge. I don't know how that's keeping her warm, but all right. And she's flirting with him. And like, obviously she's like, "Oh, talk about the cold shoulder." And you're like, "Oh, these are so naff." Although, did you notice that Arnie's smoking a white cigar?
He does look quite cool in this. I didn't notice the white cigar, but yeah, it totally makes sense.
I actually think, does it? I actually think that this is a great Mr. Freeze that's just buried under terrible writing. But the look is great. He looks fantastic. Yeah. Like, I would say, so like, let's look at the cast. You've got Clooney as Batman. You've got Schwarzenegger as Freeze. You've got Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy. You've got John Glover's in it at one point, who is in like everything DC. He plays Lex Luthor or Lex Luthor's dad in like a TV show. Like, he's in loads of DC stuff. You've got Alicia Silverstone off the back of Clueless. Like, a really, really good cast. And I think you actually cast everyone right. I think George Clooney is a good choice on paper for Batman. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger is a really good choice for Mr. Freeze on paper. Uma Thurman, I think, is a great choice for Poison Ivy. I think you've got a really good cast here. And Alicia Silverstone for Batgirl. I think you've got a great cast here. But it's just terrible script writing that you can't enjoy it at all. Like, you can't enjoy the good film that they could have made. Like, they could have made a really good Batman film, but instead they just went for like a kid-friendly toy advert.
They went for the money.
And it's 2 hours long. It's too long. It is way too long.
I didn't mind it being 2 hours because I thought there was enough going on.
I minded it being 2 hours. You didn't need it to be 2 hours long. It's just too long. Although I will say this, Craig, this is interesting. So the storyline for Mr. Freeze, that his wife is terminally ill and he has to find a cure. So he's a tragic character. He's not really a bad guy. He's just forced to be bad because his wife takes precedent. This wasn't Mr. Freeze in the comic book. In fact, this storyline comes straight from the Batman animated series, which is meant to be like a sort of pseudo sequel to the Tim Burton Batman movies. So like they're in the same tone as the Tim Burton ones. So they're the ones that pioneered the Mr. Freeze backstory that has now become so synonymous with the character that even the comic books have taken it on as well. And they also invented Harley Quinn as well. She wasn't a character from the comic books. They came up with her for the TV show. And because everyone loved her, she ended up being just as integral to the Joker character as any other, as his white makeup or purple suit.
That's interesting.
I find it interesting that they're really adapting the cartoon for the Mr. Freeze character here rather than the comic book. But the tone of it is more adapting the Batman TV show from the 60s.
Yes, definitely.
So it is interesting. I will say there is a line from the previous one, Batman Forever, where Robin goes, "Holy rusted metal, Batman." And then Batman looks at him like, "What?" And he's like, "Well, look, the ground, it's made of metal and it's full of holes. It's holy." And he's like, "Oh." So they do a classic 1960s Robin quip, but then explain it to be like, oh no, he really just meant the rusted metal that they're stood on has got holes in it. And it's like, I mean, I see what you're trying to do. But
you're trying to be funny.
You're trying to be funny. But this film is that one bad line in Batman Forever throughout the whole film.
Yeah.
That's the problem with this one. And I suppose it was, if that's what you want to do, I suppose casting Arnie was the best choice because, you know,
he's known for it, yeah.
He's known for it. People expect the quips in an Arnie movie. And you know what? Arnold Schwarzenegger does get top billing in this movie. George Clooney is second bill.
George Clooney, how famous was he at this point? I mean,
massive.
He was still but I don't know. I mean, who's made more money for the box office at the time? Well, definitely Arnie by this point, 1997.
Of course. And just a bit of trivia for you. Do you want to know how much he made to be in this movie?
Tell me.
I think at the time it was the most money any actor had been paid to be in a movie. $25 million.
Ooh.
Now, back in the late 90s, I think if we extrapolate that like to a conversion rate, I think we're looking at something close to $50 million.
Might even be higher, actually, given how crazy inflation.
Higher. Yeah, inflation. Down to inflation, something like 50 mil or more. Like, that's insane. That's insane money.
Did he get any equity from the film?
Oh, I'm sure he made sure he had a really... I reckon he's still making money off that
piece
film,
of the box office.
Actively tried to avoid it. You know, I will say this, another bit of trivia. George Clooney is known, if you meet George Clooney in real life and mention that you went to the cinema to watch it or bought it on VHS or DVD, he is known to actively give you your money back. And he apologizes. And Joel Schumacher also went on record to apologize for how bad the movie turned out.
Yeah, I think I read...
I can't believe that the man who made 8mm with Nick Cage, that dark film about snuff films, I can't believe the same director made this. It is night and day.
I think it's just an expectations thing. Like, I think Joel Schumacher just had a really different expectation of what people really wanted this film to be. I think that's where it comes from.
I think so,
unfortunately. Too. You know, like, even talking about how different this movie is from Tim Burton's first Batman film, even like comparing, what was it? Batman, was it just Batman? Batman Begins? Was that the first name of the first film?
The Batman. No, it was just called Batman. No, just Batman.
And then the second one was Batman Returns, if I'm right?
Yes.
Like, they're both by Tim Burton.
Yes.
But I feel even between those two movies, there's a really big difference in tone.
There is, yeah. Like, I think the second one is more fun, but it leans more into Tim Burton's Gothic style as well. Like,
and it feels very silly as well.
Yeah, there's silliness to it, because you have, like, penguin henchmen with rockets attached to them, and you also have clown henchmen and all this. but you still have this really dark gothic vibe. Everyone has like sunken eyes. Penguin is really grotesque. Catwoman is like tragic but sexy, and I mean, fucking literally, Christopher Walken is in it, playing an original character called Max Schreck. And obviously, Christopher Walken's face just screams the gothic. But more to the point, though, his character name, Max Schreck, I looked him up ages ago. I forget now why. Maybe it was for a podcast. But he's not from the comic books. He's an original character. And obviously, Max Schreck was the name of the actor who played Nosferatu in the original Nosferatu movie.
Oh, I was wondering where that sounded familiar from. Okay, interested.
Yeah. Sorry, we're now talking about the trivia of Batman movies that aren't Batman and Robin.
Well, it's interesting. I do remember like watching this one again. I was thinking, okay, I kind of like how they made, Mr. Freeze have a reason for being a bad guy. And also a Poison Ivy, she kind of has a reason for what she does. It's just not bad for no reason, hers is weaker.
Yeah, she's an extremist environmental activist.
Yeah, but like, now thinking about all four movies, I think all of the bad guys, they're not just bad for no reason. They come from something made them the way they are. Except maybe the Joker, actually. He was always bad, wasn't he?
No.
He just wanted revenge.
Well, he was a gangster. He was a gangster that like had a confrontation with Batman, and he fell in the acid. So that's why he focuses on Batman. Penguin was just sent to live in the sewer because he was deformed. Catwoman's got a tragic story. Did you notice that the Uma Thurman Poison Ivy story and the Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman story is exactly the same? They work for someone who is corrupt. Yeah. When they discover that corruption, that person kills them, or at least thinks they kill them, and then the thing that they base their supervillain persona around is the thing that revives them. And Poison Ivy kisses you with poison. Catwoman kills Christopher Walken at the end of Batman Returns by kissing him with a taser in her mouth.
It's been a while since I watched the second one, but yeah, that's interesting how they're so similar.
It's almost a copy and paste. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think they accelerate the story for this one. It's more long-winded with Catwoman, but yeah, very, very similar stories. Almost like, this is tried and tested, so we'll do this.
Yeah, it's a good observation, but it's not too surprising, really. As you said, tried and tested. Mm-hmm. I did feel that with some of the stuff of Poison Ivy was a bit like there was a whole bit where over the top, or just could have been done better, maybe is what I'm thinking. Because there was a whole bit where so when Bruce Wayne is unveiling this massive telescope and she comes up to him with these big requests to save the environment, and he basically is like, nah, people come first. This is ridiculous. And I was thinking, ooh, that hasn't aged well, I think. I think people's perception of the environment has changed so much in like 30 years that, like, I don't know, like, that would not go down well today. And I think today people will side with Poison Ivy being a bit more like environmentally friendly. I don't know. Side with the environmentalist and not the billionaire.
You say that, but I do have a note here. So Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze team up, and their ultimate goal is to cover the world in ice and then fill it with these hybrid animal/plant creatures that they will rule over. How do plants grow in icy conditions?
Well, this is the thing. It was never going to work. It was never going to work. They were foolish for ever thinking that their alliance could work, and obviously they end up fucking each other anyway. Like,
yeah, but like their plan is just simply incompatible with one another.
Yes, and they're completely incompatible with each other, and therefore they fail. which is why they lose. It was never gonna work. You can't have a frozen planet that's also a living planet.
Do you like Poison Ivy in this? Because you were going to make a point about her. I really like Uma Thurman in this. Like she looks like she's having fun, and that's it. And so does Arnie. I think they're both the best things in this because they look like they're having a laugh. Whereas George Clooney looks miserable. Chris O'Donnell looks miserable. Everyone looks miserable besides Arnie and Uma Thurman, and they make it for me.
Yeah, I do have a note somewhere that, like, for a Batman film, I don't really give a shit about Batman. I'm more interested in the villains in this movie than them.
To be fair, though, I think that remains consistent. Like, I would say all of these 4 Batman movies, like the Tim Burton ones and the Joel Schumacher ones, I think the villains are the main draw for all 4 of them. They are... Like, I like Michael Keaton, but like, I think people only started giving a fuck about Batman as a character when Christian Bale took it on, and then he becomes the most interesting character outside. Like, let's be honest, Scarecrow was a bit boring compared to the other villains that we've had come before, as was Ra's al Ghul. And like, it was only until we got Dark Knight where Heath Ledger's Joker was like, oh, this is fucking awesome. So the newer ones sort of focus more on Batman and make Batman more compelling, whereas the older ones, it's more about the villains. Or maybe that's just me.
Well,
because I really like Uma Thurman in this. Like, she's
very fun.
Yeah, she is really fun. Let's not forget, this is only like a couple of years after Pulp Fiction as well. And I think was she married to Gary Oldman at the time? I think, maybe, or might just be making that up. I know Gary Oldman was someone big, like Madonna.
She married Ethan Hawke, didn't she? They have a daughter, Maya Hawke, who's now quite big, and she's in Stranger Things. Yeah.
No, I am a bit of a fan for Uma Thurman in this. She's perfect for Poison Ivy. Although, I think they could have done a bit more with like sort of exploitation of women with this, but obviously it's not that kind of movie where they want to make a social point. But I would have liked that. I think Poison Ivy could lend herself to like making a social point about how women are seen in society.
I think if they remade this, they would definitely.
I think they should. I wouldn't mind remaking exactly this film, but make it good, because I think you have everything in place. I would even cast everyone the same again. I think you have everything in place except the script. The script was lacking. The script let this one down.
Do you want to hear something controversial?
Let's hear it.
I think this is Arnie's best ever acting.
He's good in this, right? Like, when he's not making
really?
puns.
You agree?
When he's not making puns, he is like he uses everything he's learned up until this point. Like, I agree with you. Well, I don't agree with you that it's his best acting. I still think he's got great scenes in Conan, but there's one scene in Escape Plan where he has a mental breakdown. That's fucking great. He's great in that. I think some of his newer stuff, there's better acting in it from him. But I really feel how sad he is about his wife when he stops the quips and he does like just looking up at her or watching the wedding videos back. Like, when his tears freeze, he can't even cry because his body won't let him.
One that I remember, yeah.
But yeah, I think his acting in this is good fun. I'll tell you this. You know, when he's in prison, he's in Arkham Asylum, and there's a scene where he's holding an ice sculpture he's made of his wife, and the camera pans around him. But if you notice, the camera is panning a huge, like, sort of half a circle around him, getting slowly closer to him as it goes. And his face is always center frame. So Arnie must have been moving hit the sculpture at the same speed as the camera was moving. So Arnie was having to make that shot work through, like, obviously the direction is, it's a really nice piece of direction, I thought, when I'd never noticed it before, but I was like, there's no way you can achieve that shot without getting Arnie to move it, but so smoothly that you would never notice he's moving it. But he must be moving it a significant amount because of how much the shot is moving. And his face never gets blocked. So I just thought that was interesting because I'd never noticed it before.
I didn't notice that, but that's interesting. But yeah, he's been in films for a good while by this point. I mean, this is 97. Yeah. He's done about 20 years worth. Yeah.
And at insane. The time, he was the highest paid, highest grossing actor in Hollywood.
He was the Rock of his generation.
Oh, the Rock wishes he was the Arnie of this generation.
But I think the Rock now is one of the highest paid. I don't know if he still is, but at least a couple of years ago he was. I think the Rock is just a replacement, isn't he? For Arnie.
Robert Downey Jr. since Avengers Endgame is the highest paid actor of all time. $75 million they paid him.
Oh.
And did you hear that he's coming back to play Doctor Doom?
Yeah, it's Doom. Yeah.
I saw the number that they're paying him for this. It's gone up. They're paying him $100 million to come back for Doom.
That's insane. That's just so much fucking money.
It's like
that's way too fucking much.
It's like a third of your budget is just to pay this one guy to be in it.
Yeah.
That's mental. It's actually mental.
That's How
else are you going to get him to come back and save your franchise? But we digress. So what do you think of Bane?
I don't know. At the time, when I was a kid and I watched this...
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, I'd say the people who are a fan of the comics feel that Bane got done dirty.
I can see that. I mean, I haven't read the comics, but he's way more complex in the Christopher Nolan movies.
He's more like he is in the Nolan movies in the comic books than he is in this. In this one, they just make him like a sort of mindless henchman. But he's one of the only people that have managed to beat Batman in the comic books, and people get really angry that they did Bane a disservice. But when I was a kid, I thought Bane was fun. I didn't.
Yeah, I thought Bane. He was cool as well.
Yeah,
I did read up on the actor. He died a year after this movie came out. Yeah, he was a wrestler. I think it was called like Jeep Swenson or something like this. He was only 40 years old, but he was a big steroid user.
Mm.
And he had a heart attack like a year after this movie came out, and he died. He was in a few other things before. I can't remember what they were. But yeah, apparently he was so big that he had problems doing certain things, like he couldn't have showers properly. He had trouble going upstairs.
He is huge.
Yeah, but I was also thinking...
I think he might be bigger than Arnie.
I think he might be, really, because if he can't even have a shower properly, he's got to be bigger than Arnie.
Like Arnie, he looks bigger, but he's got all that gear on as well. Like Arnie's wearing a lot of armor. Like
you don't really see Arnie flexing in this at all. So what I was going to say is it's interesting to see someone else be the muscle guy in the movie because, you don't really see. I mean, like Mr. Freeze's though he's strong because you see a few examples of his strength throughout the movie, but you don't see Arnie being the big muscle man as that he's usually known for. It's like almost he's in this movie being himself in a funny way. And you have Bane, who's a much stronger guy. But I don't think you ever see them in conflict with each other, though. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting point to make. I mean, Arnie is usually the biggest guy in the room. And you're right, actually. I think in this, he's sort of playing like a caricature of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, all of the choices that they've made with this performance and the direction of it all, like it really does stem from what we expect to come from an Arnold Schwarzenegger vehicle. And it's very prevalent in the movie.
Yeah. But there was something about Bane that I'm pretty sure probably annoyed you. Exposed wires again. We were talking about this with Saturn 3, the whole exposed wire thing. It just looks stupid, and it's like a clear weakness. Again, I think so. I can't remember which character did it, but one of the characters pulls out his wires, and then he's just like immediately weak again towards the end of the movie. It's kind of stupid.
Yeah, I mean, them exposed wires are going to get you one day. They're going to get you one day. Don't expose your wires, children.
By the way, can we talk about some of the things that were stupid and didn't make sense about this film? There's one bit that I remember that really confused me. So there's a whole like bike racing thing going, underground bike racing thing. And so like Robin hunts down Alicia Silverstone racing, and like there's a whole bet, like this one biker guy, he's betting that against her, like that he'll win, and like he's getting some people to help him cheat, and they throw like Molotovs or something, and there's fire, and like so they're racing, and yeah, these two guys swing out, throw Molotovs, and for some reason, both Robin and Batgirl fall off their bikes. I don't know why. The other guy, he stays, and then they both start sliding down this bridge. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on here? Because they were going to go that way anyway. Why did they, like, were they going to jump off it? Like, where's the end of the race? Were they going to go down that bridge? Like, why does the bridge just suddenly fall down? Like, surely they can't just drive down that. It just didn't make any sense. Like, why the fuck did that happen? I don't see how they were going to win that race. And I guess no one did. So how did the guy ever win any money anyway? It's very weird. I don't know. Did you find that weird, that whole chase scene?
Yeah, it's a really odd choice. I've got in my notes that these death races in Gotham are just like a video game. I've had video games that really remind me of this race. Like these death races, they're a bit weird, aren't they? Like, none of the police seem to be doing anything about it. But like, to be fair, we've established that Gotham is a pretty dark and brutal place in every Batman film. So I can buy that they take place, but like the police don't intervene. They're all like fucking each other over. Like, is it all just one big hustle, one big scam that if you entered the race, they're just going to kill you and take your money? Notice that Coolio makes a cameo here as the guy collecting all the money, and he was apparently going to be playing the Scarecrow potentially in a sequel that never happened. So this would have been the introduction of that character, believe it or not. But there was also word that Nicolas Cage was going to be the Scarecrow instead. But yeah, this death race. I'm sorry, I've got Death Game on the brain because we did Death Game month recently. But yeah, this sort of death race in the streets of Gotham, it just has no sort of clarity. Like, it's not clear. There's just a lot of shit happening, a lot of interesting set pieces, and then that's it. There's been no real consideration as to, does this make sense? Also, I would also say, because so as you say, they fall off the bikes, they start sliding, and then they go off the end of the bridge, and Robin catches her and like uses his acrobatic skills from back when he was in the circus to hang on with his feet, and catches Alicia Silverstone. Does not Alicia Silverstone look very, very calm, even though she's hanging hundreds of feet in the air? It seems that every building and bridge in Gotham is like hundreds of feet off the air, off the ground. And she's hanging there, and she just looks like embarrassed, like, oh, you caught me. And it's like, shouldn't you be a bit more scared? You're literally hanging, you are inches from death. And then Robin has the time to go, so this is where you hang out. It's like, wait, you've got time for a quip? Shouldn't you guys be freaking out? I don't know. I thought this whole sequence was daft.
Yeah, I completely agree. He even had time not only to make a quip, but so at one arm he's holding Alicia Silverstone, the other one he's taking off his helmet to then make the quip. Like, come on, for fuck's sake. And like, but by the way, there was another moment, thinking of these odd, that's worse than this, but it's very quick. And I don't know why they did it, because it's a really poor film editing choice. And it looks so bad now. There was one bit towards the end where they're fighting Poison Ivy and Robin falls in a pond or something. She's got some pond with lilies or something. He falls in somehow, and there's a shot of him coming to the surface. Like, so you see his head, he shakes off the water, and then they reverse the shot and he goes back in again. And like, why did they do that? Like, that looks so bad. Don't reverse the shot like that. Just don't include that shot. You don't need it necessarily. Like, I just, very weird filmmaking for me. Did you spot that as well?
Yeah, I to be fair, I've always noticed that ever since I was a kid watching the film. I think they're trying to make it feel like the plants are dragging him back down under by reversing the shot. But I think you're right. I think it just looks dreadful. And I'd say another thing that's been like a bit of a theme in lots of films. I've seen the reverse thing done before in lots of different films. And I've seen it been done well. I've seen it like in Twin Peaks, but I've seen it been done really, really dreadfully, like I think in this. But there's also another really bad thing that always bugs me with a film. All the surveillance footage in this movie, there's a bit where we see surveillance footage of Poison Ivy springing Freeze from Arkham, and then there's another bit where Batman shows Mr. Freeze evidence that Poison Ivy was the one that killed his wife. Both of these instances, they show a video. The video, there's got to be a camera somewhere for this, surely, right? But they just recycle the footage from the actual film. And I hate that when movies do that. Like, come on, you've got a budget. Surely you can just shoot it from another angle so it looks like surveillance footage or something. But they never do. Good films do this. But this one just recycles the shot from the fucking movie. And I didn't like that. Always breaks my immersion.
Yeah, I think that's a trope that's very common in movies of this time. I think they don't do it so much anymore, but yeah, it doesn't look nice at all. There was also one thing that I don't understand, and I don't know, maybe you understand it. Maybe there's something I'm missing. But again, this final scene, well, one of the final scenes of Poison Ivy, she's lured Robin back in because the whole movie he's just been a fucking idiot and has been obsessed with her. And it's just like really annoying because he's not, it's just really dumb the way that he's obsessed with her. But anyway, he goes there because she makes a Robin signal because he's asking for a Robin signal because he's a fucking wanker. And he arrives there, but he's got some fake lips on and he's been arguing with Bruce Wayne about being obsessed with her and stuff. And they fight, and then for some reason she's like resting in this giant fucking plant. And she's resting in it. She's trying to seduce Robin while she's lying in it. And then they fight, and then somehow she falls back in it. I can't remember, maybe one of the guys kicks her back in. And the plant just swallows her. And then she's defeated. Now, what? I don't get how she's just defeated. Why did the plant just suddenly turn on her? How did she just lose? I don't get how that meant that she was captured.
Yeah, I know. It's so annoying, isn't it? It's like, surely that plant knows that you're her mum. So why is it eating you? Surely it wouldn't eat you. I don't get it. And we find out at the end it didn't eat her because she's in Arkham Asylum. So what is actually going on there? And what happened between her getting munched up by the plant and going to Arkham where she seems all crazy, going like, he loves me not. Like, it's a bit, I felt that there was a big jump there. And again, why would the plants attack her? Why? Like, it's not like a Venus flytrap where, you know, they just wait for their hairs to be stimulated to close. It just looks like she was already sat inside the flower when Robin rocked up to give her a seeing to. And like the flower opens up, reveals her sat in there. So why does it want to eat you? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all. And, you know, everyone is like, Batman and Robin are just so quickly indisposed by Poison Ivy in this scene that if it weren't for Batgirl, Batman and Robin would have fucking died. Batman and Robin would have fucking, that would have been the end of the movie. Roll credits. Mr. Freeze freezes everything. everything turns into the alternate ending of Little Shop of Horrors, and that's that. Wham bam, thank you, ma'am. So I felt that things could have been done better there, or certainly make it clearer. Like I say, it's just to sell toys, isn't it? This is just a giant advert for toys. This entire thing. Put Poison Ivy in a giant plant. Give Batgirl her own motorcycle, even though it makes no sense that she's got her own personalized equipment now. Like, they didn't know they were going to have a Batgirl. So, but somehow she has her own personal equipment. She has her own personal vehicles with her own logo on it. Like, yeah, it's just nutty. Like, there's no consideration from one scene to the next. And again, Poison Ivy, why are you revealing all of the plans? She's like, oh, tell me your, kiss me and I'll tell you my plan. Tell me your plan and I'll kiss you. And like, yeah, okay, you think you're going to kill him, but haven't you watched a movie before? If somehow he survives, your plan is now fucked. So why are you have you never watched a Bond movie? Like seriously, why do villains do this? They let the hero know what's going to happen just because they think they have him beat. They have to gloat. I don't think real villains would do that. And certainly I think it's a trope that we've sort of moved away from with modern movies now anyway, in all fairness. But back here, like, I find it so egregious that she is literally saying, yeah, I killed Mrs. Freeze. Yeah, we're going to freeze the city. Like, stop talking. You've just given away the game. Like, all it takes is for one of them to survive. Then they can go and deal with Freeze. So, yeah, I feel like Poison Ivy was, let the whole side down, really, in her own, pride, would we say? But again, I've gone off on a tangent. I agree with you. It doesn't make sense that the flower munches her. That whole sequence is done quite badly. Although I will say this, Craig, the knife that Poison Ivy has, this sort of flick up green blade that she has that kind of looks like a leaf or whatever, that was not meant to be the only time we see it. There was a deleted scene where when she goes to the party and seduces Commissioner Gordon, there was going to be an altercation between her and Bruce Wayne's love interest, which we should probably talk about. We've not really spoken about her at all. But she was going to kill her, and they decided to get rid of it because it needs to be a kid-friendly movie. But they were going to kill off that girl that Bruce Wayne is engaged to. I think they're engaged. But yeah, so we were going to see that blade, but it was cut out of the final cut because McDonald's can't sell toys if, you've got murders.
Dead wife toy. Why not? There's also one final note about this scene. I know this film is full of one-liners, but the only one I wrote down was from this scene that I thought was a bit too much. So Robin, when he's like lying next to her, it's like, I need a sign. And she says, how about slippery when wet? And I thought, fuck's sake. It's too much.
Yeah, I thought that was quite funny. I need a sign. So she gives him a well-known, sign that people put up when the floor's wet. And I find that quite amusing, that she takes the sign thing too literally. Again, it's just it's cartoon logic. I was looking this up. Apparently, Joel Schumacher, before every take, he would shout, remember everyone, this is a cartoon. And it really does feel that way. The whole film feels like a cartoon. And since I brought up Bruce Wayne's love interest, can we just talk really briefly? Because she's only really in one big scene. Any public event, she's there with Bruce. We don't really find out too much about her. But there's a scene with Bruce and her at the mansion, and she's talking to him. And while she's talking to him, he's daydreaming about Poison Ivy. And as they're talking, she says things to the effect of, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to marry you. And he keeps having to refocus his attention on the conversation because he keeps daydreaming about another woman. and then she kisses him, and he sees Poison Ivy kissing him. And without realizing, he calls her Ivy. So you're telling me, you're a woman, you're in a relationship with a man, and the day you tell him you're keen to get married and spend the rest of your life together, he calls you another woman's name. And then in the next scene, they're still together and they don't bring it up. And I'm like, wait, what? It didn't even cause them an argument? Are you joking? Is the most unrealistic thing about this movie, that these two stayed together after that. Absolutely mental.
I didn't notice that at all. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense. That he's going to be totally fucked. But it does seem kind of funny that he's even in a relationship. He seems like he's not interested in it. It seems kind of like just a Bruce Wayne cover that he's in a relationship. I don't know. Because there's no way that he's told her anything about himself, really. But yeah, it's weird. You can't really take it seriously at all.
No, let's be honest, none of this film should be taken seriously. It is all one big giant cartoon, one big joke. But I just find it perplexing that they thought that she would remotely stay with him. Like, it is perplexing. Maybe it would have been more poignant to kill her off after that scene, and Poison Ivy being the one to kill her. That might have made it more poignant. Like, this is the thing. I still think there is a good movie underneath all this mad comic book cartoon shit. Because I do think you've got fantastic actors for every role. It's just the script is such a letdown. Like, I know he's a doctor, but it's pretty convenient that Alfred's dying of the same fucking disease that's killing Mrs. Freeze. That's pretty fucking convenient. And also, isn't it convenient that Mr. Freeze just carries the cure around with him? Because why the fuck not? Don't keep it somewhere safe. Carrying it around with you makes sense. Sure, why not? Just in case someone asks. So he gets the cure for Alfred at the end, and it's like, and again, you have this like really sort of like, you know, operatic moment, like the music's crescendoing and Mr. Freeze is turning over a new leaf. And then again, you can't help yourself but putting in another funny line, or funny in inverted commas. Take 2 of these and call me in the morning. It's like, it's not even funny enough to be worth doing. It's not even that good of a joke. Like, oh yeah, some of this movie really annoys me. I'll tell you another like plot detail that I just find so like unbelievable and unreal that it really breaks the film for me. And maybe you can answer this for me, Craig. How does diamonds make fucking things freeze? You tell me.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It doesn't make any... Again, it's cartoon logic, isn't it? As you always say, it's like a MacGuffin. Oops, sorry, I almost knocked my earphones off. It's like a MacGuffin. It's just a fucking thing that he needs to do. Like, otherwise, if he didn't like go around collecting diamonds, what criminal shit would he be doing? I don't know. And maybe like going to labs or something to steal some shit for his dying wife. But I don't know. They needed some criminal element to give him, and stealing diamonds is kind of funny cartoon shit. But yeah, I don't get that logic either. The only thing I was going to say earlier, actually maybe 2 things. One, this movie makes me think of the Power Rangers a lot. That might just be because when I was a kid, there was like the Power Rangers movies were kind of coming out around this time, I think. But some of the logic and shit that's happening reminds me of that. Also, another Ivy thing that didn't make any sense to me, around the same time as the Bat credit card thing. There's this whole, like, so they're doing this like charity event where Bruce Wayne he's trying to lure out Mr. Freeze by selling diamonds or something, I think. And Poison Ivy and Bane are dressed as like fucking gorillas for some reason. And suddenly, like, she's just like, everyone's like bidding for diamonds, and they turn around and they see her dancing. So everyone's just stop what you're fucking doing. Stop talking. Stop bidding. Turn around, watch the sexy gorilla do the sexy gorilla dance, and reveal that it's a woman inside. Like, I just don't understand the logic that like everyone's just gonna stop what they're doing to look at a gorilla dance sexually. Like, what? Why? Why? I don't get it. It just doesn't make any fucking sense to me. That was a very weird scene to me. Please agree.
So just to add on to that. So I looked up that scene, funnily enough, and apparently, although I've never heard of the film, I probably should have written it down. Apparently, that's actually a reference to a film where there is a woman that does a striptease, but she starts in a gorilla outfit. So it might be a reference to an older film that Joel Schumacher was inspired by for this sequence. But I agree, this sequence is strange on all accounts. Like you've got grown men. Like, so I know you said they're bidding for the diamonds. They're not bidding for diamonds. They're bidding for a date with the diamonds. Like, these girls are going to go and take these, rich old men out for a night out. And, they all conveniently are named after different plants. So it's like no one is suspicious that her name is Poison Ivy because, they're all named after some kind of plant. So it's kind of convenient again, not going to lie, a lot of conveniences. Pretty ideal to be at an event where your villain origin name will be revealed. But this whole sequence is mental. They're bidding for women. We're literally seeing like women selling themselves. Poison Ivy literally says, "I'll bring everything you see here, plus everything you don't." And it's like, so you are heavily implying whoever wins the bid is going to get like a bit of a raunchy experience with you. Now, with all the massive effort that was made to make this appropriate for children, this seems like a really out of place sequence. Like, everything, the violence has been toned down, the comedy has been amped up. They've made sure that you can make 1,000,001 different toys out of it. Like, they've actively gone out of their way to make this kid friendly. But right slap bang in the middle of the film, you have an auction for human women, like, who are selling their bodies. Like, it's really, really out of place, I think. But it kind of works as well at the same time, because you get the back credit card moment there, and we get to see how Batman and Robin first meet her and first become infatuated with her. I do agree with you. Robin is a whiny little bitch through most of this movie with how infatuated he is with Ivy. But at the same time, that is her character trait, like this sort of supernatural allure that men can't get away from, that they are powerless to resist her pheromones and how beautiful she is, all of these things. That is one of her, it's part of her power set. So, I like the idea of it, but like, I think it might have worked if it was done more grown up. Like, I keep coming back to it. If you'd taken it a bit more seriously, you're not aimed it at kids. Like the Tim Burton ones are not aimed at kids. They are pretty violent. Like, there's a bit where Danny DeVito bites a guy's nose off. Like, there's some pretty dark moments in the original Burton Batman films. Like, if you kept that tone going, I think this film would have been really good. I think Joel Schumacher was the wrong choice to take the franchise.
The sheer amount of fucking things that anybody can list about this film, it's almost like every fucking scene there is something that just went wrong. It's really, I don't know, man. This is kind of shitter than some of the shit films we did last year for Shit Film Month. I don't know. I mean, yeah, but you've listed some very, very good points, some ones I didn't even think about. But it does feel so... I think the decision to modernize something should not be taken lightly when you're adapting something, because you can do it really badly, and they did it very badly here, because it aged so poorly, all this neon shit, all this face paint, fluorescent shit, just did not land, did not stay like that. I don't know what they thought they were doing. I don't know, dude. But I will say, all this shitness aside, it was nice to watch this film again, like after about probably 20 years. I mean, it's terrible, but it's fun terrible. I don't know.
I agree. It's terrible, but really, really fun.
Yeah, for sure. Shall we give this one a rating then?
Oh, hang on a minute. Before we give it a rating, I'll make one more point, and then I'm done. Right, one more point. Something that I noticed when I finished the film, and I'm like, wait, hang on a minute. So, you know that Seal's song "Kiss from a Rose" was written for Batman Forever, and I'm watching this film, and I'm expecting it to come up at the end, and I'm like, oh wait, of course it's for Batman Forever, and this is Batman and Robin. But then I'm sat there like, hang on a minute, Kiss from a Rose. That makes way much more sense to be written for a Batman film centered around Poison Ivy than it would be about the Riddler and Two-Face. So it got me thinking, maybe Poison Ivy was meant to make an appearance in the previous one. Perhaps, maybe, who knows?
That's interesting. I didn't even know there was a song, actually. But yeah, I just generally feel that with these two movies, this Batman and Robin and Batman Forever, were just a complete fucking mess with like production and just this like it just feels like they were like just really rushed. There was a ton of money. Okay, we got to capitalize this on this quickly. As you said earlier, it's been like 4 movies in 8 years, which is quite a lot. Very close together, actually. I didn't even realize they were so close to the original film. And like, yeah, the script was just fucked up. It felt like they were just making decisions for the last minute. Some weird editing happening. It just was rushed Hollywood shit. So I would not be surprised, actually, yeah, if a song planned for another film, yeah, ended up being made differently. I don't know. It's a lot of mistakes, a lot of rushing here and there, for sure.
Well, I'll tell you this, Craig. Before we rate this, they did plan on doing a sequel because obviously, you know, Batman was a big money maker at the time. This film didn't do well. People hated it. But they were going to do a sequel. I mentioned earlier that Nick Cage or Coolio might have been in the running to play Scarecrow. And apparently Harley Quinn would have been introduced as the daughter of the Joker, and she would have been another central villain figure. And apparently George Clooney was going to come back. And it would have been directed by Joel Schumacher. If anyone is interested, you can go look it up. It's called Batman Triumphant. You can go look this up on Google and they'll break down all the plot details. It's either Batman Triumphant or there's another one that I've seen floating around. But they had they had a couple of ideas, and Harley Quinn was going to be reworked to be Joker's daughter. I think they were going to get someone like Madonna to play her as well. So, but don't quote me on that. It was a while ago I read about it, but you can find it online. If anyone's interested, feel free to go have a look. But be that as it may, it's time to rate this motherfucker. As fun as I've had a lot of fun watching it, and I've had a lot of fun talking about it. But despite all that fun, I'm not sure what we'll see what my rating is when it comes out my mouth. I never really know, Craig, until I go to rate it. But I can tell this is going to be a low one. How many icicles out of 74? How many icicles would you give it?
74. Where the fuck did that number come from? 74 icicles. You're having you're running out of creativity like the writers of the script to say 74 icicles.
I know. Maybe I should have done ice cubes or... Oh, I'll tell you what then. How many ice puns? There you go. How many ice puns out of 74 ice puns? So, because I reckon there's about 74 ice puns in this movie. Talk about your cold shoulder. They just keep coming fast and thick. There are so many ice puns. So how many ice puns out of 74? I personally think, suppose technically it gets 74 out of 74 because it has got a lot of ice puns, but I reckon I'd be giving it, I personally think I'm giving this like a 5.5 out of 10. And I think I'm being generous.
I think you're being incredibly generous. But if you were to rate it out of puns, it's definitely 74. It probably is at least 74 puns in this movie. Yeah, I give it max ratings for puns, but if I'm going to rate it out of 10, I'm going to put it on 3. I think 3 is a good fit for this. It's not a 4. It's just, yeah, I think you're very generous with a 5 there.
3! I mean, I can see why people hate this movie. I really can. But Schwarzenegger is great in it, and I think he is perfect for Mr. Freeze. Uma Thurman is great in it, and I think she's perfect for Poison Ivy. George Clooney is not good in this, but I do think on paper he would make a really good Batman. Chris O'Donnell's a whiny little bitch. Alicia Silverstone just sort of comes out of nowhere, like, oh, I had a niece this whole time. And like Batman and Robin, they're like, you never told us this. And it's like, well, you've known each other your whole fucking life. How? And then you're close as well. How the fuck do you not know that he's got family in England and that they wouldn't come and visit? Like, it's just mental to me that they have no idea who Alicia Silverstone is, or that Alfred had family, living or dead. Like, why wouldn't he have family? Why are we, like, this is it. Why would you have never had a conversation with each other about his family? Like, he's the parental figure in your life. That's your father figure since you were like 10 years old and your parents died. He's been looking after you. And you're telling me that he's had time for you and not been living with other people in his life and never mentioned them? I mean, like, that doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense at all. You know what? You're right. I'm going to give it a 4.
See, the more you talk about it, the more that annoys you. And there's even some stuff I forgot to mention about her, actually. There was so much exposition just given away. So, my family died when I was like 10 or something, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no one talks like that. No one just reveals their whole life story talking about all this shit that's happened. It's just so fucking, like, I don't know. Yeah, it was stupid. And there was a whole thing about Alfred looking for his brother, Winfred. Ha ha ha. Let's give the fucking kids similar names that they will not get bullied for. And that goes nowhere. I think they literally just used that as a way for a Batgirl to like guess Alfred's shitty password so she can learn everything about fucking Batman and Robin and become Batgirl. I don't know. 3 it is. It's a 3 out of 10. Don't give it more. Come on.
I mean, okay, listen, right? You know what? Because I know we're wrapping the review up, but like, you just reminded me of something. And again, the more I think about it, the more angry I'm getting about this fucking thing. So you're right. Alfred and Wilfred, pretty similar names. But to be fair, he does have a brother in the comics called Wilfred. So that is like quite comic book accurate. People do like comic book accurate for some reason. A lot of it's rubbish, so I don't know why they care, but yeah. But no, you've just jogged my memory. Yeah, I mentioned in the last episode that there's a scene that really, really annoyed me. So as you say, she's trying to get into the computer to try and access this secret, and then she discovers Batman and Robin. You're telling me that you're Batman, and if you found out that Alfred, the security to your secret, was a 3-letter password, and you keep the password next to the computer, I would sack him in a heartbeat, mate. Are you fucking joking?
Yes. That's insane, yeah. Fucking 3 letters right there. Yeah, her guesses were also very stupid, but yeah, I don't know. Back then, no one cared about password security. It's 1997. No one knows how this shit.
Did you notice when she's typing the password in, she's like every attempt she makes, it literally looks like you don't see her hands, but you see the letters coming up on the screen, and it just looks like you have like a toddler trying to type one word, like one letter with one finger at any given time. And so it's like E, FGL, and it's like really, really slow. Everything she tries to type, and it's like, did keyboards not work back then? I had a computer back then. I could type stuff out quickly back then. It's ridiculous. It's just this weird trope from movies from the 90s. Also, when she discovers the secret, we're actually looking at her and we're seeing the light from the computer on her face. That's not how lights from computers work, Warner Brothers. Can we not get computers accurate at this point? Fucking ridiculous. You know what? You're right. I'm making it 3. It's a shit film.
There we go. I just had to tap into your anger. But yeah, that's all that stuff with the computer. Like, I don't know. Even still today, like, it's a bit different. Like, it's not as bad. Yeah, like one letter at a time. But instead they do the opposite. When it's like a hacker on the screen, it's like typing away like a fucking maniac. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand why Hollywood just can't get computers right now. Come on. It's been long enough. We know how to type normally. It's not a challenge anymore. Or it's not super impressive. It's not exciting when someone's typing on a fucking keyboard. Come on, move on. Move past it.
Can you imagine people watching these movies and going like, oh, wow, I wonder how many words per minute she can do. Like, no one's impressed by it. Oh, I totally agree. Should we wrap this one up, Craig? Because this one's taken us a wee bit longer than usual, eh?
Yeah, it's too much to rage about. Like, it's always the last minute thing. Oh yeah, that fucking pissed me off. And then you remember something else. Oh yeah, it also fucking pissed me off. But yeah, we should wrap this one up. I think we've rated it now. Both. Oh, let me check what it is then. Let's see how accurate we are. But I was saying 3. I think I talked you down to a 3. Batman. I can't type, man.
I don't know.
Silverstone.
I don't know, Craig. I think I talked myself down to that 3.
I will tell you that actually it's a 3.8. So not far off. It was, yeah, it made sense to go for 3, I think.
Pretty accurate, eh? Pretty accurate. Not a bad shout, 3. I mean, to be fair, I did go down to 4 earlier, but yeah, we both talked me down to a 3. But yeah, I did enjoy watching it again, but it's not very good. But I do love Arnie, and like anything that man does, I will sit down and give him 2 hours of my time. I'm a big fan of his. And I'm really sad that we've come to the end of Arnie's season. I really can't wait to do this again. We better do it again next year. Better do it again. I'd be really disappointed if not.
For sure, we definitely will. All right. Guess this is the end of this one, this episode. I don't know what we're doing next. Oh, are we doing shit films again? We are, right? Say yes.
We are potentially doing shit films again, but if I'm being perfectly honest, Craig, maybe we should have a break from shit films, because Batman and Robin was pretty shit.
That's fair. That is fair. But I don't know. We'll talk. We'll find out what we're doing next. Okay. Thanks, guys, for listening to us. That's the end of our Arnie season. Stay tuned for more Film Shrapnel moanings and complainings, but also, no, we're not always moaning and complaining. There's a lot of stuff we also like as well. I don't know. What else is there to say? Follow us on social media. Stay tuned for the latest and next episode, whenever that could be. Tobias, is there anything you want to say?
Yeah. All I can really say is thanks for listening, guys. We love you. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to watch lots of Arnie movies again. I'm hoping that I can convince Craig to do Walter Hill month, or there's a couple of other things that I've been shooting his way. So we'll let you know as soon as we know what's coming next. But like Craig said, keep in touch with us on social media so you can keep up to date and find out what's coming. So yeah, that's a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me. Take care. Bye.
Film Shrapnel.